All right. Scoot your glasses back.
I'll scoot your glass back.
Richard, you're in a mood today.
I want the Rainforest Cafe symbol to be seen.
Yeah.
And it lights up. How about that? After all these years.
Well, Rick doesn't normally join us for one of these, but we're doing a set of beer reviews. So, in the beer world, there's been some relatively big news that Anchor, unfortunately, has gone the way of the dinosaur. This is America's first craft brewery, Anchor Brewing Company, and they're gone. As of now, November 2023, looks like they're probably no more. And they have been going since the late 60s with beer, mass-produced lagers. So they're like the thing that just kept a little heartbeat going for us till real craft breweries could come around, or others, I should say. And then you got joined by some of these guys. So this is kind of a historical look at some of the early progenitors of American craft beer. So Anchor Steam, there were a couple choices with Anchor, like Liberty Ale or their Porter, but we're going with Steam beer today. We have Allagash White out of New York, Sierra Nevada with Ken Grossman or Kevin Grossman? I think it's Ken. Pale Ale, which made a splash and is still kicking today. And then, of course, Boston Lager, which, whether their craft is, I think, becoming more and more debatable. They're getting so huge. And then I think they made White Claw. So thanks for that, Boston Beer Company. But yeah, these are all beers that got popular and got it going. So that's why we're collecting them together today.
The forefathers, if you will, the George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Benjamin Franklin.
Except
of
then
American
later
craft
you
beers.
learn that they all owned slaves. And you're like, oh, well. It's not really that good, is it?
It's kind of a Mount Rushmore of American craft beer here today. So why don't we just drink them, give our thoughts. We can pick a winner if we want. Start on the left.
All right.
So this is Boston Lager here. Notably, Rick was...
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Rick was supposed to sit on the end and have all the generic glassware, but he got uppity and sat in the middle. So he gets all of Cody's stuff. It's really not...
Malty, a little sour.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just malty. Kind of creamy. Got that foaminess to it. A little dank on the back end. It is a lager. American... catered a little bit to American tastes. It's not as clean. It's obviously not the color of traditional lagers, nor as clear as.
Nor as tasteless as.
Yeah. So
basically, what this beer is, it's basically a selection that you would make if you like good beer and you go somewhere where all they have is like Bud Light, but then somebody brings like Boston Lager and you're like, oh well, good. At least.
Well,
it's like, other than that, I don't think it has any purpose anywhere. But it's like...
He doesn't mean it.
Fine. It's like, fine. It's not like terrible.
But
because it's not like cheap like a Bud Light either. So it's like, I would just get Sierra Nevada or something at the time. I don't even think they costed anymore. They were always back... I just remember I was going to like Kroger back in college. And it'd be like, Boston Lager, these types of things. Mine's Allagash. I don't think I ever saw that, but it'd be like $7 to $8 or so for like the 6-packs of like Sam Adams.
Yeah.
So it's like clearly way more expensive, but like I wouldn't get it otherwise. It's just like it's not as distinctly different flavor-wise from a regular American pale lager, Bud Lights and stuff that normal people would actually drink it who don't know anything about like pale ales and stuff at the time. So you might actually find that if like you go to a party or something.
Right. And Dave Koch, who went around and like promoted that, like he like hand peddled this essentially, went like door to door and like got it popular. And then it exploded. Then they got Blue Moon, and now they're doing hard seltzer and stuff. So they kind of have their finger on the pulse of trends. I'll give them that. They're so huge now, like they really are barely Like I don't know if I would call them craft anymore. They're just too big. But
It's like
and who'd they merge with recently? Yeah.
Like in the music world, it'd be kind of like Sub Pop. Like they're an indie, quote unquote, but like they're so big, they're basically not an indie anymore. They're a major. Let's be real.
That's a very good analogy, actually. I think it's Dogfish Head that they merged with, so now they own Dogfish Head as well. Okay, so let's move on to Pale Ale. Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, the one that launched that company out of Chico, California, if I'm not mistaken. Got a pretty body to it. It is like pure copper.
Definitely hoppier. For
Yeah.
sure.
This is like
Grassier, maybe.
This is generally the beer that introduced the country to West Coast hops, like Cascade and Centennial and all those, and brought that unique level of bitterness and started the. I don't want to say it started the IBU wars, but it's one of them that kind of changed everyone's opinion about what a beer should be. It's not an IPA, mind you. It is a pale.
This would be always my choice in college, but having gotten older and starting like IPAs and just more options, kind of going back to it, it's just not like, I don't think it really holds up. Even considering that it is a pale ale, not an IPA, it's like
It's pretty one note,
well, it's like it's kind of weedy for a pale ale, and there's like no fruit really. It's just kind of a little bitter. It's like fine. Like even like older pale ales were still like fruity. Like I know it's hard to recall because they were West Coast style IPAs and they weren't necessarily that fruity, but they'd be like piney and whatever. And even the pale ales, they'd have a little bit of fruit, and a little bit of like those kind of notes. This one doesn't really. I feel like it. I don't know. I don't drink a whole lot of pale ales anymore, but I feel as though it's like it's a little different from most pale ales slightly.
In what way?
It's like kind of weedy in it. There isn't a whole lot of fruitiness to it.
Yeah, there really isn't much fruitiness. This is fairly dry. Like comparatively, we are Indiana boys, and we are big Three Floyds fans, and they are kind of the kings of pale ales, and they've tweaked it every way that's possible. So we're used to a lot of pale ales that have a little bit of fruit notes to them, that have a little bit more like this is citrusy. I mean, this is like lemon peel to me. It's like pretty much pure lemon peel, hoppy,
It's like you
and
took off like the piney kind of notes and replaced it with like wheat. Usually, I don't get wheat off of.
it's not making me think wheat specifically. But it's kind of it's a fluffier, doughier back end. This is like pretty good. I mean, it's pretty prototypical. It's what you would expect for at least a West Coast old school pale or anything that's not like nowadays. Everything's hazy, so even pales. I think mostly.
Probably the first like craft-ish beer that Cody introduced to me, because he'd go to college and I think he'd bring some of it back when he was in town, and I'd come over and I'd drink some. And
This was one of them, you recall?
Mm-hmm.
It is, and these are, except for maybe Allagash, I'd say these are all, well, actually Anchor too. These two are like kind of universal. You can find them pretty much, or omnipresent, really.
And then I remember a few more. There's like, I don't know status of like craft or not, but just like something out of the ordinary back in those days when it was all Bud Light and all that. There was Red Stripe, and then there was a Hoegaarden. That was one. And then and I remember everybody like, because we were like 20, thinking like like, ooh, these are the fancy beers. What was it, like Michelob? There's like a
Stella,
Amberbach. Amberbach. They were like, ooh, we brought Amberbach. Oh, fancy. But then there was like I said the other day, we always at that place they always had Samuel Smith's Oatmeal Stout, which is like so much better than anything else. And then but we still did an old school one that was actually like still holds up as a really good one, is the Chimay. Any of those,
right?
That would be like a fancy like. Ooh.
Well, that's Belgian, and Samuel Smith is English. But as far as American stuff, this was what got us going. So let's do number 3.
Okay.
Allagash White, which I've never had. I don't think I've ever seen it even sold around here. But
is it like a farm Belgian?
I think it's a wheat beer, if I had to guess.
Oh.
Belgian style wheat beer.
There we go. A more
This would be your like Blue Moon.
citrusy Nope, no.
Yeah, it should have like orange and coriander probably.
Mm-hmm.
Whew! That's got that flowery note and that like.
Oh yeah,
like pure baking flour, yeasty.
Orange, floral, and wheat.
yeah.
That's it. I just don't like wheat stuff.
This is one of those beers. I would say, reading a lot of beer literature, this is probably. I mean, obviously these before people had any craft beer, when they would have Boston Lager or Pale Ale, it would like just blow their mind. Allagash is the one I think I've probably seen more brewers say blew their mind as an early brewer. That they're like, I didn't know beer could taste like this. It could have that much flavor and yada yada. It could be that light, fluffy. Could have a body like this, hazy. Obviously, back in the days of Pilsner, lagers got really important, got really huge because they took ales are like standard beer, and then lagers took over, which is cold fermented. And the reason lagers got so popular is because it was like the best way to make beer safe to drink, to have anything safe to drink, really, because it would be, if you did it cold, it would prevent from microbes getting in and infecting the beer. And before you had like refrigerators and stuff, that was like a big deal to have clean drinking liquid of any type, especially something that would have fuel in it, calories in it to help you work the farm and everything. So the clearness of a beer, like Bud Light, it's like water, it's so clear. That is a callback to that time of needing the beer to be so clear you could know it was clean. Hazy meant like dirty, unsafe to drink, at least historically. So people avoided them, and these weren't popular, and that's why Budweiser and everything took over during that time period. But now that we have refrigeration and air conditioning, everything like not an issue anymore. We can have flavor again, and it's taken us a long time to get back to those roots. But that's why something like this is hazy. It's because it's not a lager, obviously. Has a lot more going on.
If you liked wheats, that's like way better than like a Blue Moon.
I like this,
what it costed back in the day, comparatively. If it was like you buy them in a pack, or if it was like a one bottle, like $5 kind of deal, or what. But
Allagash has always been a little on the pricey side, and they are more of they were like the first company to really get big into Belgian stuff. They're gonna have that little extra premium on top. I mean, nowadays they've been making this for decades now, so probably not now, that one. But I like this.
We'll see.
A little clovey. Yeah, you got a lot of that citrus peel in there, but it has so much flowery yeast. It's totally different than like Pale Ale, which is also citrusy. So cool. All right, number 4, Anchor Steam, which is probably going to be the most polarizing of the 4, if I had to guess.
I never liked it much. I think Anchor Porter was more kind of like,
it's like
even like later on, still like considered pretty good.
Yeah. And they are known for, at Christmas time, they have their holiday ale or special ale, but they discontinued that like 3 years ago. Then they said, well, we're only going to sell their beers locally, and then like last year they're like kaput.
Anchor Steam a lager?
It's no, it's a, God, I should have looked this up before I came over. I think they either use a cold fermenting yeast strain and they brew it in the warm way, or they use a warm brewing yeast strain and they brew it in the lager way. It's like one of those two things, I think. It's basically, steam beer was made as a way to have like a cheaper alternative to like expensive lagers. Because lagers can be expensive to make, especially for a small production, because it requires much longer time, because you have to like chill it and let the little yeast strains, the ferment for like 6 months, 9 months, whereas like an ale can be like 4 months, and you don't require refrigeration. So like lagers for a small production can be expensive to make. So this was like their way of like trying to make a beer that was cheaply made that would taste like a lager, if I remember the history right.
Which lagers are like, even back then, it's like the Arby's of the beer styles. Just get something else. I don't know. That's for me. Oh, not even for me. Screw that, objectively. Especially now. I can't even think of an analogy. stouts versus lagers, and you're like,
Yeah. This is really watery compared to the others.
It's like,
Yeah.
here's that's
Probably my
that
least favorite.
bitterness without anything to go with it.
This actually tastes almost like a tea to me compared to the other three.
It's like you took the Boston Lager, you took away the sweetness and added a bunch more bitterness without any additional flavors.
Yeah, it doesn't have the body. It's very.
But that's all lagers, though.
Runny.
It's just like, these are different things.
Yeah, they're totally different. This was like, yeah, I could have gotten each of their early like pale ales or something
But
like
like I
that.
said,
But
the porter
that's
I
not
think
fun.
is always considered pretty well.
Yeah, Anchor Porter is like nobody has anything bad to say about Anchor Porter. And Liberty Ale, which I forget, I think Liberty Ale is basically like a pale ale. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah. So we went with Steam just because it's like it's a very signature beer for them. Like pretty much a few people made Steam beers. So,
But I remember them back in the day. I always kind of avoided Anchor. Tried them, but another one that I thought of that I'm sure is probably just like an offshoot of like
Fritz Maytag, by the way,
of
founder. Well, he didn't found it, but he bought it in the like '60s and got American craft beer going.
you had like the different classes. Back then, it was like simpler times. Before there were like 100 million different microbreweries making 100 million different beers in all different forms. It was like if it came in a 6-pack, you're like, oh, like that's not Bud Light. But the other one I remember was Harp Lager, which sucked too. Like it was branded as like Irish or something, but I bet it wasn't.
Yeah.
I bet it was just Bud Light.
Yeah. What's that other one? Damn it, my friend at FedEx was like the only thing he drank. I can't remember it now. There's Killian's.
Kevin's beer of choice to drink half of
Urkel?
one.
Pilsner Urkel, I think. That was a bigger one. Another big one. Yeah, so this is probably not fair to Anchor here that we're using this one compared to these, but again, yeah, this was just kind of for fun.
I think it is.
So, if you had to pick one to drink, I bet I know what Cody would pick. What would you pick, Rick?
The right here, the Allagash White.
Really?
I mean, I think it's between two of them, clearly. It just depends whether you like wheat or not.
My problem isn't
those
the wheat, but...
citrusy
Not a problem.
floral.
I just mean, like, if you don't like wheat, then you probably won't.
No, yeah. I was just going to say that, like, my problem with Allagash is it has that, like, clovey, like...
That's I like the clothing.
Oh, do you? I like the Allagash. All right, Rick. Well, that's... You know what? Kudos to you.
It reminds me of the
correct, as it were.
the seasonal current like Christmas like ales and stuff they release around this time of year.
Yeah. It does have a pine needle presence for sure.
Orange, which
The
is a
orange.
lot of.
Yep. Well, so what are you picking, Codes?
Yeah, stick with the Sierra Nevada, but
Yeah.
if I like wheat more, because I like it is a Belgian style wheat, at least in taste to me, which I like Belgian style. And you get like a half and half basically.
Have you tasted this one again?
But I'm not huge on wheat, so I'd probably stick with Sierra Nevada, but that's probably higher quality, honestly, than the Sierra Nevada, which is just kind of plain Jane.
Doesn't it taste like roasty now compared to the other three?
Which?
The Sam Adams. Go back to Sam Adams after the other three, and it's like I can like literally taste like that kilned barley, that like nuttiness. It's kind of cool, actually. Yeah, I don't know.
Multi-sweet, kind of watery.
I would say I think overall pale ale as a style I prefer to everything else here on the table. I'm not sure that Sierra Nevada's pale ale is going to win for me.
So basically, I like.
I think I'm gonna go Allagash, but gosh,
Yeah, basically like pale ale's a style that I prefer more. But in terms of like overall quality, if I like the styles equally, I would have picked Allagash. It doesn't feel like, oh, this is an old one. If you took like Zombie Dust or even just like Alpha King versus, which is not a good example because I feel like Three Floyd's beers taste pretty different from what the overall style tastes
Three Floyd's
like
has its
anyways.
own niche.
But whatever, if you took those two, like, it's not even close, you know? Like,
Right.
But I feel like this one, if you compared, like, some fancy, it came in a can. Of course, they all come in cans now.
Yeah.
Not that I care about that, but
That is true. These
it
were probably
would
all
kinda
bottles
hold
at
up.
one
It
time.
would kind of hold up a little bit, I think. Better than Sierra Nevada Pale Ale does.
Sure.
That's the thing that I found about that is like that was like the pinnacle back then, and it kind of was. There
It
were
was,
better
yeah.
beers, but like not for the price and like that you could actually find. But
Yeah.
now, if you compare it against something, you'd be like, oh, which I do, and I'm like, yeah,
Right.
it's
And
fine.
this is
but
now a mass produced thing. It's like
This
hazy
could
little
hold up.
thing, you know. It's the generic version of pale ale for American pale ales that you can get
Like, we brought
everywhere.
over a Belgian wheat bottle that we tried one night. It would have more flavor than that, it'd be more intense, but it wouldn't be that different. I don't feel like. So I think that one holds up better, and is probably
For Allagash, yeah.
the best.
Yeah, probably holds up the best. Right, exactly. Yeah, you said everything. I think I would go with a pale ale if it was something more advanced or newer than than Sierra Nevadas. But otherwise, I think today I'm going to go with Allagash. Honestly, I don't hate the steam brewing. It's the steam beer. It's just the least flavorful before.
Mm-hmm.
And Boston Lager's really like, I like to crap on Boston Beer Company, but like it's not bad for what it is.
It's just,
You know?
it's like a tale of two ratings. What is the style that's the best?
Right.
Pale Ale, then that one, and then that one, and then Boston. Well, no, then Boston Lager, and then Anchor. But then it's like about overall quality, like probably Allagash, and then maybe Sierra Nevada, and then maybe this, and then Boston Lager. But like, yeah, it's about the styles in terms of this.
Yeah, of course. But you know,
Lagers are...
we're just going back and trying some of our, you know, respect your elders. As
No,
they say.
I'm gonna fight you.
Now, Cody. So, Richard, you really set him off. All right.
I am worried for
I'm
my
so
life.
sorry.
Now that's what I'm
Thank
talking
you.
about. Brotherly love.
It's okay.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is
Cody's freak stuff.
Adrian's gift to me
Oh my gosh.
from, say, for
Oh, I
Christmas
see.
2023.
Okay.
Convicted felon Michael Vick.
Michael Vick.
David Mills.
David Mills, dude. Don't sleep on David Mills.
Quentin Nelson.
Oh man. I hope I got you a card in there that's worth like $1 million and I like gave it away to you.
I hope so too. Jamar Chase.
There you go.
Travis Kelsey.
Khalil Mack. Clack, I call him.
Chase Brown.
Chown, I call him.
Oh, here we go. Rasheed Rice rookie card.
My goodness.
Cortland Sutton.
Oh.
That must be most of the red.
Oh.
Yeah.
Give me a good one, Rick.
Pierre Skoronsky. Tyreek Hill celebration card.
Okay. Well, see that that makes sense. It follows.
Chargers huddle up card.
Is that just like is that your bookmark?
Quentin Johnson.
He's got some potential, Cody.
Will Levis.
Okay. Well, I mean, it was potential,
Hey, he had
not.
that one game that was really good. Everybody hyped him up. Hunter Renfro.
What?
Got her.
Okay, well, all right. Okay.
I loved seeing him frustrated on the sidelines because what the Bucks did to him.
Well, there you go, Rick. That card will always have that sentimental value for you. Priceless.
Jackson Smith and Jigma. Rookie card. Andy Reid celebration card.
Is it a picture of 16 cheeseburgers? The year that team went 17 and
A
0.
kid reporter card. I could win something.
Well, on behalf of me, I apologize for that whole deck.
My child could be the next Panini Super Bowl kid reporter.
Whoops.
Super Bowl opening night.
Guess you have to have a kid for that to be redeemable.